Our reviewer and guest for today is Mrs. Wanuta Adetayo, a friend of Laterna, a friend of the house. She's an inspirational teacher, a seasoned business executive with a passion for activating the latent potentials in individuals and organizations, and she works them to the peak performance. She's an executive director of Kano's Edge Consulting and sits on the board of Nigerian Economic Summit Group and Honeywell Flour Mills. An alumnus of the University of Lagos and Harvard University, she has distinguished herself in training and capacity building of over 10,000 professionals at different levels. Wanuala is the founder of Yes to 30, a leadership and mentoring program for emerging executives under the age of 30. The reviewer is a book enthusiast. She is passionate about books and an author of several books herself, including Pregnancy Watch, Morning Watch, Sitting of Overflow, Laying the Foundation for a Lasting Life, Pitfalls on the Journey to Marriage, the First Born Prayer Watch.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to start by paying my deep respect, to the Laterna leadership. Like Mrs. Morgan said, I'm a friend of the house. I've been with this couple, wonderful work that they're doing, both in the private sector and also in the kingdom. God bless you real good. And I'd also like to say good afternoon to everyone that has chosen to join us on this venture. And I'm trusting that in the few minutes that we have together, we will be able to learn a few lessons about the disciplines of execution. I am going to attempt to share my slides. I'm still very rusty at this, and I'm hoping that it works. So I will try and share some slides so that way you're not just watching my face, we can engage. So I'm going to do that now. This afternoon, we want to talk briefly about the book titled The Four Disciplines.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. 4 Disciplines of Execution. The book is authored by 3 gentlemen. First of them is Sean Covey, and Sean Covey is a New York Times best-selling author. He's the Senior Vice President of Innovations and Products at Franklin Covey. All the 3 authors actually belong to Franklin Covey. The second author is Chris McChesney, a global practice leader of execution for Franklin Covey. And the third, but not the least, is Jim Pollin, who is a managing consultant for Franklin Covey's 4 Disciplines of Execution. These 3 guys are awesome. I've read the book and I've run a number of courses on the book itself. So they start by identifying what's the real problem with execution, because a good number of us will start the year with beautiful strategies at the company level, at the personal level, but somehow when the year runs out, we take a look and we discover that somehow we're falling short, or sometimes in fact we've just gone in a completely different direction. They identified 4 problems with execution. Problem number 1, lack. One of the problems is the lack of clarity, meaning that when your goal is unclear, then there is a very, very high possibility that you will not execute your strategy as you intended. The second real problem with execution is the lack of commitment. So you have in our organizations some people who actually have a clear understanding of the goal, they have a clear understanding of the strategy, but because of the absence of commitment, then we find that the strategy is not executed at all, or it's improperly executed. The third problem that they are emphasized in this book is the lack of accountability, which means you may be aware of the goal, you may be aware of the strategy, you may even be committed to it. But when nobody holds you accountable as a staff or as an individual, you may discover that you tend to veer off because there is no consequence for veering off. The last problem that they identified with execution, which is really what led these 3 guys to put together the book for disciplines of execution is what they call the whirlwind. The whirlwind, if anybody knows what the whirlwind is, you seem powerless and it just carries you up and down. And what they have called the whirlwind are the normal day-to-day activities. So you find yourself, you wake up early in the morning, you jump in the car, you are in the office from morning till night, and at the end of the day, when you look at all the activities that you have carried out on that day, you might be absolutely surprised that they are totally unconnected with the goals that you set for the day, for the week, or for the year. So these are the 4 fundamental problems that they identified with execution, and therefore they, in an attempt to deal with these problems, designed this book around what they have called the 4 disciplines of execution. They've also called it the 4DX. What are these? The 4DX basically are simple, repeatable, and proven set of principles. And they're not just principles, they are things that you actually practice. And when you practice them, they help you to push and to accomplish, your critical strategic goals. Now, the book is divided into 3 sections, but in 2 parts. Okay, so the first part talks about the 4 disciplines and the principles, largely covered in pages 23 to 77. And then the second part, which is subdivided into 2 sections, is how you convert these principles into action. And they've titled them Installing the 4DX with your team, pages 105 to 194, and Installing 4DX in your organization, pages 209 to 251. So you can see that you have no choice than to buy this book ultimately. But then, of course, I'm going to try and focus a lot of attention on the 4 disciplines, which is something that I am absolutely convinced works. I have, organized execution sessions for senior executives of banks, senior executives of the public sector, senior executives in telecoms, and I know they work. So let's start. Discipline number 1. The first discipline is what is called focus on the wildly important. Focus on the wildly important. This is a discipline around narrowing your focus. And what they say about discipline number 1 is that no team should have more than 3 wildly important goals. And you don't call anything wildly important goal unless it has a beginning, which is an X, an end line, which is a Y, and a timeline. So it has to have a beginning, an end, and a timeline, because that's only what makes it measurable. Then discipline number 2 is act on the lead measures. Act on the lead measures. While discipline 1 is on focus, the discipline 2 is on action. What exactly are you busy doing? So you take your wildly important goal that you have defined X to Y by when. Let's say, for example, I want to improve my communication skills from maybe an 8 score to a 10 score. Suppose that is my wildly important goal by the year ending 2020, okay? December 31, 2020. So what will be the lead measures? The lead measures are those activities that will directly deliver my improvement in communication skills. That's what is the lead measure, the activities that will directly deliver. And these activities have to be things that I have the power to execute. So that's discipline number 2, so that you focus on high impact activities to drive your results. Then it talks about discipline number 3. Discipline number 3, keep a compelling scoreboard. A compelling scoreboard. The purpose of the scoreboard is to motivate your team with the right kind of scoreboard. So on that scoreboard, they can track the lead measures, whether they are moving, whether they are not moving. They can also make commitments and identify what the challenges are, which takes me to discipline number 4. Discipline number 4 creates a cadence of accountability. Now, I want to pause here to check. Is everybody still with me? Somebody please say yes.
Yes,
yes, ma'am.
Yes,
thank you so much. I want to be sure that I've not lost my audience.
Not
Thank you.
at all, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So discipline number 4 is create a cadence of accountability. Remember, these 4 disciplines are actually attempting to deal with the fundamental challenges of execution. So if you have a clearly defined goal and you have lead measures and you're keeping a compelling scoreboard, until you install a cadence of accountability in which people gather together. What is that cadence? Cadence of accountability means setting a rhythm of regular progress review meetings. And there are rules about this meeting. You do not discuss anything that is outside of the 3 wildly important goals. You don't discuss anything outside of the lead measures. If there are issues, you suspend them and deal with them outside of that meeting. So having summarized the 4...
May I interrupt you briefly, Mr. Aditayo? Excuse me, Mr. Aditayo, sorry.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Please, we need to mute our mics. We are really enjoying this, but there are some background noises. Please kindly mute your mic so that we can hear Mr. Aditayo very well. We've been hearing clearly until a few seconds ago some background noises. Mr. Aditayo, sorry to interrupt. We are really enjoying this.
Thank you, because I was also getting a little distracted. I didn't want to comment, but thank you for doing that.
Excellent. We're enjoying this.
Thank you so very much. Thanks. Okay, so having summarized the 4 disciplines of execution, remember I said this book is in 2 parts. So the first part teaches you the disciplines so that you understand, and then the second part of the book then takes you through installing, and rolling out the 4 disciplines, first within your team and then within the organization. And of course, the steps are already there. The first thing you have to do is sit with your team, which is what I said. When we organize those workshops for companies, we actually ask the very top people to come. They sit down around the round table, define and clarify, because there has to be the overall wildly important goal for the organization. Then the stage 2 is now to get each of the teams. So some are in sales, some are in whatever department, to now set out their own wildly important goals that must still be in alignment. So issues of alignment would be critical at this stage. Issues of measurability, issues of ownership, who owns the results and who owns the game. These are all cleared out in steps 1, 2, and 3. Now, when everyone has done that, you then get to step 4, where there's an organization-wide launch, where everyone is made to stand up and make a commitment. These are the top 3 goals for my department. These are the top 3 goals for my team. These are our lead measures. These are our timelines. This is what our scoreboard looks like. And this is precisely when we will be holding our meetings. Now, having done step 4, remember, because majority of people abandon ship at that stage. Unfortunately, no job has started until you get to step 5, which is now the real execution. The first part of it was planning the execution. Step 5, you now release the team to start executing, and then you as the leader must continue to coach, continue to participate in the week sessions to follow up until at a quarterly summit, all the leaders are now made to come and report before their peers and before their senior leaders to give account for each of these goals that they have committed to, what has happened, what has been the result. Now, just as I'm about to round up, there are certain common pitfalls that the book reminds us so that we don't fall into those pits. The first is expecting an automatic change in behavior. It never happens. I can assure you, I've installed it with my team and we still struggle till tomorrow. Why? Because the natural habit of people is to slip back into their old behavior, which is to just go to work and continue with the whirlwind. People will not focus on the weeks, they will not focus on your lead measures unless you are constantly following up, constantly holding the week sessions until it becomes a habit. So don't fall into that pitfall. The second pitfall is where, for some strange reason, there is a very important goal that happens to be missing when you were doing your wildly important your week session. When this happens, you have to be humble enough to call the team together and say, you know what, I think we missed out on this one. So either you put it in or you suspend it and let everyone know that there's a time that you are coming back for it. The other three is mistaking the whirlwind urgencies. You know, certain things appear extremely urgent, and 90% of the time, there are things that you can delegate, there are things that you can defer. So do not mistake whirlwind. The fact that you were in the office from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. does not mean that you are working on your wildly important goal commitments. The fourth pitfall is not holding people accountable for unfulfilled commitments. You see, people don't do what you expect, they do what you inspect. And when you inspect and there is no consequence for non-performance, then people, even the good people, are most likely to not do what they're supposed to do. So you have to establish a system, whether it is that you're giving people scores, whether you're giving people points or whatever. And lastly, making the mistake of certifying wrong leaders at the wrong level. If you read the book, you'll find all this in details. As I close finally, what are my own findings? Number one, I find the book very, very practical because it's made from real life situations. I find the book very operational. You can easily, make it a part of your day-to-day operation in your organization. You have to bear in mind the challenge of a change. So when you implement it, please bear in mind there's a need for cultural and behavioral. And of course, please, it's counterintuitive because we think that we should focus on the wildly important goal, which is what we always do, but focusing on the goal does not deliver your goal. You must remember you focus on the lead measures that will deliver your goal. And of course, finally, please watch out for the whirlwind. It usually finds a way of messing you up in your delivery. I want to say thank you very much, and to join the leadership of Laterna to remind you that 10% discount is on offer for this book between the 6th and the 17th of July. All the numbers are there, and please feel free to make contact with me. Thank you very much as I hand you over to our able moderator.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Adesayo. That was excellent, on point, timely. I didn't need to flag you on time, and you packed in a lot within time. That shows you are used to this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was brilliant. There's a lot to talk about, but we don't have so much time. But I like the expression wildly important goals. That presupposes that there are non-important goals, there are important goals, and there are goals more important than important goals. You get what I mean? Okay, so yes, I would like you to, from what you saw in the book, you didn't have enough time, but I would like you to speak about the impression that expression gave you as you read the book. Wildly important goals.
Okay, let me explain to you. In fact, that's, you see, the greatest danger that we leaders have, most especially perhaps passionate leaders. We can have like a myriad of goals, 10, 15, okay? They're all goals. Why the word wildly important is to give you a basis to separate wildly important from other goals. So it's not saying the others are not important, but it is saying that you have to separate what is that goal, which if I fail to achieve it, you know what, I've failed in life. Let me give a good example. Perhaps as a Christian, God forbid I die tomorrow, okay? If I get to heaven and discover that the entire purpose for which I came on earth, I have failed it. Do you understand? So that for me is a wildly important goal, a goal which if I have missed it, I've missed all. So that's why the use of the word wildly important. So everything is good, everything is beautiful, but I must separate the must have from the good to have.
Why
does
is
that
it?
Help?
Yeah, it does a lot. Why is it? Before I open two more questions, before I open the floor to everybody else who might have a question for you. Why is it that a goal that is supposed to be widely important, I mean, we all should know the goals that are widely important to us. Or perhaps we don't. Maybe that's something you can also talk about. But why is it that goals that are supposed to be wildly important to us get lost, in our day-to-day activities and pursuits? If a goal is meant to be wildly important, why does it get lost in my pursuits, in my day-to-day living? Why? It is supposed to be wildly important.
Exactly. It's a terribly natural pit that we all fall into. I'll give you an example. Again, I'll use the same example. You see, the goals that are wildly important are seldom urgent. They're seldom urgent, like this issue of fulfilling purpose. So something keeps telling you, I need to get this done now. I need to get my car out now. I need to build my house now. I need to be this. I need to be that. And it feels as if, I have a lifetime to fulfill my purpose. So I do not see it as something urgent. That's why when you see someone who has suddenly had a heart surgery, immediately they come out of that heart surgery, they pay serious attention to their health. Why? It seems extremely urgent. The moment the pressure on the health subsides, it's very, very clear that a good number of people actually fall back into the old habits and they actually die. Why? Because the important goals never seem urgent, and so they get lost in the midst of little things that appear extremely urgent. It's like in life. Oh, I need to pay school fees now. I need to do this. I need to do that. And suddenly someone finds himself at the age of retirement of 50 and he says, oh my God, I never put retirement fund somewhere. Oh, I never built a house, because it was not urgent, but it was important. So the reason why the most important of our goals get lost in the track is simply because they're never like very, very pressing things. Important issues are seldom very urgent, and nature has programmed us to chase after those things that appear immediate. That's my explanation, and that's what the book would tell us.
So beware of the urgent, right?
Yes, in fact, it's called the tyranny of the urgent. The tyranny of the urgent, yes. Urgent is a tyrant. It will pursue you to push off what's important. So there will be urgent things, but most urgent things you can delegate, you can defy, you can send someone who is junior to do it so that you focus on the most important.
Excellent. That's very profound. Very, absolutely profound. Before I open the floor, one more question about the book. Who would you classify as the ideal reader for a book like this? Is it a book that's primarily for line managers or organizational leaders, or how would you classify who is supposed to read this?
First of all, I will start by saying that this book is of benefit to everyone. However, because of the importance of leadership, and I mean leadership at all levels, leadership at C-suite, leadership at departmental level, and then the line leaders. Every leader should get a copy of this book, because if the leader has no understanding, then the entire team is in a mess. I remember a number of times when line managers have actually attended our program. We call it execution workshop. Believe you me, every single one of them, as they are leaving, they are screaming and saying, please bring our bosses to the class because they are really our problem. So I believe that at C-suite level, at a departmental level, and at line level, these are the three crucial cadres that need to read the book. However, even on a personal level, the 4 disciplines of execution will help you to execute your own life goals.
Thank you, Mr. Adetayo. Thank you very much. I will now open the floor to anybody who might have a question for our reviewer, Mrs. Aditayo. If you do, kindly indicate by waving. You can just wave.
There's a Fumi that is already waving. There's a Fumi. She has the virtual wave.
Okay.
Fumi Wale or something.
Okay. There she is. I can see her now. Fumi, can you kindly unmute and go ahead and ask your question, please?
Thank you very much, Aditayo. Very, very powerful. Without getting you to divulge things in the book, I think one of the main challenges for anyone is to decide what the wake is. COVID has made us to realize that even presidents of nations, they have challenges with this. So is there anything in the book that helps us to sort of assess goals and tell us whether this is actually a wake or just, an ordinary goal? That's my question.
Okay.
Yeah. Should I go ahead and answer?
Mr. Aditayo, please wait. Let's take about 3 questions together.
That's fine.
Yes, I can see Omolola. No, Omotosho. Yes. Please unmute and ask.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I should say a big thank you to Mrs. Adetayo, very good sister of mine, and greater thank you to Laterna Ventures. This is very, very timely. While listening to her, mine is actually a contribution, not a question. And I'm glad that at the annual economic summit in Abuja, Ms. Adetayo and I have met several times, and she would understand the point I'm trying to make. While listening to her, it occurred to me that this book should actually go to every leadership in governance, because it has opened my eyes by merely listening to her do a very, very beautiful review. And it brought me back to the time I was chief executive of a federal government parastatal. And I realized that if I could think of some 20 years ago, while I was administering Nigerian tourism, it is very, very apt for all chief executives of all federal government agencies, of all state government agencies, our commissioners, governors, and even officials at the federal government and presidency. It is very, very relevant, because I realize a lot of things we do have beautiful policies. Implementation is always the problem. I remember one of the economic summits where our former Minister of Agriculture, Femi Adesina, was one of the guest speakers. And when he was rounding up his presentation, he said, every year we come, we converge, we talk about beautiful policies. Now I want to say, let's do it. Just like Nike. That Nike payoff says, let's do it. I'm sure Ms. Aditayo will remember that particular year. Let's do it. Are we doing it? So I recommend this book to every leader in governance, both in government and the private sector. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Omolola's hand is up. Moderator.
Yes.
Omolola's hand is up.
Hello.
Omolola, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, man, for a very wonderful review. You make me to understand much better about the book now. So I'm going to reread it again with this review. And secondly, thank you, Laterna Ventures, for bringing up this. It is timely. Please, I just want to ask and advise the next one. Please, let's have the name of the book in time so that we can read it. So by the time they are doing review, we can go along with it and also be able to ask questions about the book. But this is a wonderful one and a nice one. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Sorry, I lost connection for a while there. Ms.
Okay,
Adetayo,
let me repeat myself.
No. We had you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes. Ms. Adetayo, can you please
Yes.
respond to the questions and comments?
Okay, thank you very much. The first question from Fumi is to say that, is there somewhere in this book that we will know what is the right goal or what is the wrong goal? My first answer will say there's never a wrong goal. There's never, because goals are quite personal. However, what the book seeks to help is to give you certain guidelines against which you can measure whether something is wildly important. And one of the first ones is the one I already divulged, which it will say to you a goal which, if you do not, achieve, perhaps renders virtually, say, 80% of your success is lost if you don't achieve it. So it gives you some guidelines to help you separate between what is wildly important and what is just basically important. But at the end of the day, each one of us has to make that choice as a leader in an organization, leader in the family, or leader in the public sector. But there will be guidelines to help you. The second one was a comment from a very good colleague of mine. And I think she has just added to Laterna's burden. Perhaps Laterna is going to consider getting across to chief executives, largely in the public sector. But I can confirm at least that we have had one or two public sector agencies, not the core parastatals, is more of the, how would I call them? Yeah, the parastatals as opposed to the civil service directly. So yes, I'm agreeing with her that every leader needs to have this at all levels so that, we stop postulating policies that never get implemented. And of course, the last person was basically requesting that Laterna would consider sending the name of the book to be reviewed in advance so that perhaps some of them can take a look at it before attending the review. These are the three questions/comments that we got.
Thank you, Mr. Adetayo. Excellent. Olufunto wrote something here about getting the book to government parastatal CEOs. If they get copies in government, how do you ensure that they read it? But I found out.
I assure you, they won't find time to read it. Madam knows they will not find. Let me tell you something, sir. Even when we are running the execution program, and Mrs. Morgan can bear me witness, we even will invite Laterna to come into class and display the books and sell the books. Okay, a good number of people will buy it. Very few will actually sit down to read it. So I would suggest that anyone who wants to help those guys should actually organize a session, perhaps starting like this, to just take them through for 15 minutes and tell them to bring their aides, because they won't do it. Their aides will at least get it going, and then, I'm so sorry, but that's my opinion, okay? So, and due apologies to any leader who takes time. A few of them will take time, but 90% of the time in the public sector, they are too busy. So their aides and their, in-house consultants will help them to install it and then get the real people who do the work to do the work. My humble opinion.
Thank you, Mrs. Adetayo. Thank you, Mrs. Adetayo, for that excellent review and your responses to the questions. And thank you to everybody. This is where we wrap up on the review parts of this meeting, and I'll now be handing over to the founder CEO of Laterna, Pastor Remy Morgan, who is going to give us maybe a vote of thanks and final announcements before we eventually call it a day. But it's been exciting. I love this. This is coincidentally, this is my first online book club meeting.
Beautiful.
So I'm really excited about this. And I think that
thank you.
Laterna has been brilliant coming up with this, and I look forward to the subsequent episodes of this. Thank you very much. Pastor Remy Morgan, over to you, sir.
Hey. Good afternoon, everybody. And it's good to see all your faces. The number of friends of mine I haven't seen in a while as a result of COVID-19. But thanks to the Zoom meeting, I can see your faces. And I can see everyone is looking well. To God be the glory. I want to say a big thank you to my dear sister and our reviewer, Pastor Wonu Adetayo. You've really done an excellent job. Nothing less than I expected or imagined. Can we please put our hands together and just appreciate her? I'm the privilege to be working with her on a few
Thank
things
you.
now. And, you know, what she has shared with us is a testimonial to the fact that she did not just read this book, but she has internalized it and is deploying the principles that are contained therein. So I now understand why you're able to juggle so many things at the same time, Pastor Wonu. God bless you. Real good. And I want to say a big thank you to my dear brother, Mr. Kunle Kasumo. We've been on this journey of reading and of enlightenment for a few decades, I think, now. You've been so faithful, you've been so committed, you know, to this whole space. And I, you know, just trust that you will continue to move from strength to strength. I, you know, appreciate your passion for the things that you do. I want to say a very big thank you to all of you who joined at pretty short notice. This is our inaugural meeting, and hopefully it's going to be better organized going forward. The details of the books will be shared, you know, much better in advance, and we'll give you, you know, more notice. I know that some of the notices went out very late. Sent to a friend, even this morning, I was still putting together a broadcast list of a number of people on my contacts database, and I realized that there are so many authors, you know, and people who just love something like this, and you know, some of them were really, really excited, but apologize that they couldn't join us at such short notice. So a big thank you for everyone who's been able to make time to be here. And then I just want to say a very big thank you also to the Laterna team, and you know, Pastor Yinka Morgan, my dear wife, who has really driven this. I mean, this is, my involvement has just been on the periphery. We've always spoken about having a book reading club, and we never really found anyone to champion it. We've done a great job, I think, with the children, but not for the adults. But she had a passion, because she does have a passion for reading. I remember, you know, so many years ago, whenever I went to a bookstore, I went to a book show, and I had to buy a book, I'd make sure I buy 2 copies, because my copy could just disappear. So I buy 2 copies. Sweetie, here's yours. I put her name on it, and I have mine. That's just her passion for reading, and we thank God that it has found expression here. I want to thank the Laterna team as well. They put all of this together. Like I said, I was absolutely on the periphery, and I just showed up in the office today after being off for a few weeks, you know, to find out all. Great subject. Execution is so important, and remains a very significant challenge, both in secular, in government, and also in the religious space. There are a number of other books on execution, and I believe this is just one of them. Like I said, I was sending out notices quite late. Yesterday, I sent a notice to Professor Anigogo. He is the convener of the Institute for National Transformation. And I said, Prof, I want to post this on our platforms. Do I have your permission? And then he called me back at about 10:30. And he says he's in one of the states in the, I think, South. And he says that they're in the 3rd week of presenting or running a seminar on this book. And that they have had the first set of civil servants, the highest cadre, then the next set, they finished that as well. And they're doing a 3rd week. And this is the thrust of the book. This is the thrust of the seminar that they're conducting. I'm excited about what it is. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for being a part of this. Like was shared earlier on, we're going to have a season to look at Christian books. We're going to have a season to look at life and style books as well. And I realized that there's so many authors that I know members of the Nigerian Copyright Commission, members of the Nigerian Book Association. There's so many stakeholders that operate and are interested in this space. And I'm trusting that, going ahead, we're going to be having much more interesting, much more exciting and innovative developments as far as this whole thrust is concerned. So once again, a very big thank you to everyone, and our presenter, our moderator, and all the folks. Okay. Okay, that's enough. Okay, while we continue to look at the books as being shown to us by slides, I just want to, officially wrap up this time together. Once again, a big thank you to our reviewer, a big thank you to our moderator, a big thank you to everyone who has taken time out, an unusual time, 12 noon on a Thursday, to be a part of this program. We really, really appreciate you, and I can assure you that we have many, many more interesting times that are ahead. Leadership, essentially, is influence. And it is a journey that all of us are on. And we're trusting that, times and sessions like this will be of assistance